Meeting to order. I'd like to begin with an approval of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor McIntosh, all in favor? That's carried. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? No, seeing none. There is a recommendation that a closed meeting of council be held pursuant to Section 239, subsection 2 of the Municipal Act for the purposes of considering the following subject matters: the official plan review steering committee recruitment, closed session minutes, Orangeville BIA Board of Management closed minutes, official plan steering review recruitment, and Mayor's Youth Advisory recruitment. Can I have a mover and a seconder to go into closed session, please? Councillor Stevens and Councillor Andrews, all in favor? And that is carried. We're now in closed session. Singing of our national anthem, and I'll ask that you rise if you're able.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide,
Singing of our national anthem, and I'll ask that you rise if you're able.
We stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, O Canada, stand on guard, our home and native land. True patriot love, stand on guard in all of us command.
We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands and territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Tonight's meeting is being aired on public television and or streamed live and may be taped for later public broadcast or webcast. Your name is part of the public record and will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Any member of the public connecting via telephone is reminded to press *9 to raise their hand to indicate their intention to speak, and to dial *6 to mute and unmute when called upon during the appropriate portions of the meeting. Ahead of our open session, we did have a closed session, and there is a rise and report. The recommendation is that the minutes of the July 14th, 2025 closed council meeting be approved, and that the 2025 July 17th Orangeville BIA Board of Management closed meeting minutes be received, and that Council appoint Megan Fernandez to the Official Plan Steering Committee, and that Council appoint Evelyn Sawyer to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee for the remainder of the term, and that staff proceed as directed. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Prendergast, all in favor? And that is carried. There is also some previous council meeting minutes. The recommendation is that the council meeting minutes from September 8th and the public meeting minutes of September 22nd be received. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Councillor Sherwood, any questions or comments? All in favor? And that is carried. We'll now move into the open forum. Those wishing to speak to council during open forum will be provided with 3 minutes to present their information to council, provided they are either a resident, taxpayer, or service provider of Orangeville and have not spoken to council on this topic within the last 3 months. If connecting via telephone or electronically, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 to indicate your intention to speak. You will not have the ability to unmute until you are recognized and called on by the chair. Was there anybody joining us electronically? Not seeing any. Was there any in the gallery who wished to ask a question? Yep. And we just need your name and address for the record. We don't have your mic on yet. There we go. It's on, Mr. Gristo. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Nick Gristo. I live on Paula Court, L9W5V1, Orangeville, Ontario. Well, tonight I'm here to congratulate council. I'm not here for any other reason. And the reason I'm congratulate council is on the issue of a Hanson Boulevard. Finally, the developer decided to build there, so he's also already building the connection. So I want to thank each and every one of you and staff too. So the other topic I'm here tonight for is since you're going to be doing Rotary Park there, is my understanding, and you got quite a bit of money from the province, which that's great. I would like to see a bocce ball court built in there. You, Madam Mayor, if you remember, when you were at the Legion, you remember the older gentleman, Bill, that came to you, and he says, I would like to see a bocce ball court built. So I will hope that you, council, will implement that into the plan. I spoke to Heather about it, and she said she considered to put it in there. So, and the reason behind that, you know, you can bring a tourist here in town. You can ask other teams to come over and play. And this way, you know, you bring tourists and money to the town. So I think it's a great idea. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gristo. Thanks
Okay.
for your feedback today.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Was there anybody else in the gallery who wished to ask a question? Okay. And just your name and address for the record, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Darren Hall. I'm the 545 College Avenue. I'm here tonight to propose a motion to put forward an amendment to the noise bylaw. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, I've got a call from the OPP complaining about noise in my backyard, which was a baseball game. And I went online, read your bylaw, and when I read it, there was nothing about a time frame, there was nothing about a decibel level. This was in the middle of the afternoon that the complaint came through. And as a neighbor, I turned it down as the police officer asked me. I couldn't believe they called me on a long weekend for that. But when I read your bylaws, all it states is you can't, but there's nothing about that says when I can. So for instance, I can't be in my backyard playing music, doing yard work, because someone can use that and say, well, that's offending me, I want to call the police, and next thing you know, I'll get a call. If you had something in there that stated, you know, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., or you cannot have a massive party after 11 p.m., which is logical, I get that. And if I'm still up after 11 o'clock at night, please call the police on me. But there is nothing that states that, you know, when I'm in the yard, that I can do things in my yard, other than it says I cannot run a machine, I cannot play music through a speaker, I cannot watch a ball game. And when I read the bylaw, there was nothing that said about a time frame. When I looked at other bylaws, Fergus, for instance, there was a rule in there from 7 a.m. or from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., which is logical. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. That's basically what I'd like to see happen, is maybe put something more verbiage in there that states when the time frame is and what's the decibel level, as opposed to just a blanket statement. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Martel, did you want to have any comment on that from a bylaw perspective?
Certainly. I would just like to say that the bylaw does state that it would be an unreasonable level as per the point of reception. So there's no fines associated with the first offense or any of those kinds of things. So when there is a complaint that comes in, the OPP or our bylaw enforcement officers would investigate. And a lot of times that could simply be a call. They haven't determined whether that was your baseball game in the backyard was determined to be unreasonable or not. It was just a courtesy call. It sounds like you were very accommodating and turned things down without an investigation having to ensue. Our bylaw does require that a noise log come forward, and there has to be a substantial amount of activity on that noise log in order for any prosecution to occur on our bylaw. But we did not include a time for a specific reason, because everybody works different hours, everybody has different times. So it is the unreasonable volume at the point of reception.
So what is the unreasonable volume?
It depends on the determination, yes. Sorry, you have to use a microphone if you're speaking.
Depends on the person who can hear it, right? So for instance, is 74 decibels too high?
I don't know what 74
Right.
decibels
74
is.
decibels is what we're talking like right now. So I guess I'm out of time, but that
Yes.
would be 70. That would be about 74 decibels.
I suggest you give a call to our bylaw enforcement supervisor. He'll be able to answer a lot more questions and speak to this a little bit better. If you want to give a call to the office tomorrow, he'll be in the office from 8:30 until 4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Middleton, I think you were coming up next. And again, we just need your name and address for the record.
Mark Middleton. I live on Zina Street, and I just wanted to thank everyone tonight for taking my, what I'm about to read out here. So I'm reaching out today to ask that you consider looking into practical ways we can improve public safety across town-owned spaces. particularly in areas where our most vulnerable residents gather, such as daycares, farmers markets, and pedestrian zones. One simple but effective step would be to install bollards or removable vehicle barriers in key locations to prevent unauthorized or accidental vehicle access. These barriers can protect children, families, and community members while still allowing flexible access for emergency or vendor vehicles when needed. To put this in local perspective, according to the Dufferin OPP from May 2023 to May 2024, police responded to 1,282 motor vehicle collisions in Dufferin County. In 2022 alone, there were 1,088 collisions resulting in property damage. Many of these incidents occur in town spaces or near buildings, including public infrastructure, and with Ontario's reporting threshold for property damage raised now to 5,000 as of 2025, many smaller incidents may no longer be formally documented, even though they still carry risk and cost. This is why I'm asking Council to consider forming a local safety audit committee, a group that can proactively access town properties for risks, recommend improvements, and ensure safety measures are consistently updated as needed evolve. Our town is growing, and with more people comes more activity, but also more risk. These changes would help ensure our public spaces remain welcoming, inclusive, and secure. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Middleton. Appreciate your comments. I know that I had discussed with the CAO at one point the potential for adding bollards into the budget, and I'm not sure if they've made the budget cuts yet, but Mr. Smith, maybe I can turn it to you.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't sure there. So thank you for the suggestion. A couple of things. I understand the province is actually looking at implementing safety provisions for areas like daycares and things like that. They're all on private property. We really don't have any oversight. Mayor, you're quite right. Your memory is good. We have considered some options in the capital budget, and those will be presented to council during the capital budget.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Mr. Middleton, for that. It struck me while you were speaking, like I think the CAO and the mayor have answered your question, but you've brought up safety before, and it might be worth your time to come to a police services board meeting and have a chat with the inspector and the rest of the police services board and share some of your thoughts. So I have your email address. We can link online and see if that's of interest, but it'd be good to share those ideas and explore it a little bit further as well and see. Yeah.
We need you up at the mic because otherwise they can't hear you. Sorry.
I'll
They just
leave it
can't hear you online.
I'll leave
so.
it at this. I just don't want to waste. I don't want to waste the valuable ideas that you're bringing forward. I think we should
appreciate
explore them
that.
a little
Thank
bit
you.
more, and it would be a good opportunity to discuss if you'd bring it to that venue.
Okay, that'd be fun. Yeah, I think more can be done though, right? Like as far as the farmers market is a great area where the one side has got like, I think the falafel guy, and then the other end is like full access, you know, and you close off the left turning lane, but I've told people that have parked at the left turning lane, like that's not a parking spot. So people don't have a tendency of understanding how closed off lanes work sometimes. So it would be interesting to go there and talk with them. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys come up with the bollards.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Was there anybody else in the gallery who wished to ask a question today? Okay, seeing none, we will move into our public delegations then. We'll begin with the Opera House management. We do have Sharon Aleph, the Executive Director of Theatre Orangeville, who's going to do a presentation. The mic will come on for you in a second, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me today to just walk through
what the last month of journeying through financials and statistical information has been for me. So in a nutshell, I'm here today in request of recouping some lost proceeds that the theater has covered in the process of enabling user group access to the Opera House. As the Opera House management partner, of course, we oversee all of the other community groups and renters that come into the space. And basically, the contract fee for the services of the management of the Opera House is not covering the costs of having those groups in. So what we did was went back to 2023 and have done a deep dive over the last 2 years, both in usage and in what the revenue and expenses associated with supporting those user groups very specifically. So to be very clear, this has nothing to do with Theatre Orangeville's programming. All of the expenses and revenue associated with Theatre Orangeville's programming in the venue have been removed from this process. This is all about the user groups that come in. So whether that's the for-profit renters that come in with, a Johnny Cash show, or it's Orangeville Music Theatre, Blues and Jazz, Dufferin Film Festival, the Northmen, all of those groups that come in and use the space. So basically, over the last almost 3 years now, as we have a projection to the end of 2025. These are the years that have passed in the current Opera House management agreement. Theatre Orangeville, has covered the cost of those operations by $2.5 and just short of $9,000 each of the last 3 years. On the upside, the Opera House usage by community groups has expanded quite a lot. There's been an 80% increase in the number of days that the Opera House is occupied by community user groups, which is fantastic. There's been an 80% increase in the number of community members and patrons that those groups are bringing in. We've been able to add additional staff to the Opera House to try and make more opportunities for those groups, because of course the requests come in a very high rate and we can't accommodate them all because we don't have the staff capacity. We've added staff capacity to try and maximize those potentials. This year in 2025, as you can see in the pie graph on the far right, we actually were able to minimize the number of maintenance days in the space by allocating additional staff to those maintenance days to try and make more opportunity for user groups, which was very successful. We've gone up from 50 user days to 72.5 to 95 this year, which is really great. So we're seeing more and more community use of the venue, which I think is incredibly vital and benefits both the town, the Theatre Orangeville, the community, everybody. It's a huge win. We are aware of our responsibility as the management partner to try and find ways to reduce expenses and find those efficiencies, and have spent considerable time and efforts trying to do that, trying to actively seek new Opera House user groups. We've seen some really unconventional uses of that space over the last couple of years, which is really exciting. There's been AGMs and seminars and talks from medical professionals. The Northmen came in and did several days, which it was the first time that we've ever had a sports group in that space. So there's a lot of really beautiful things that are happening as far as the use of the venue. Of course, this is all benefited by the infrastructure upgrades that Theatre Orangeville's been able to bring to the space. It's a fully accessible space. There's a lift. There's hearing assist. It really is a beautiful venue and unlike any in town. And we want to make sure that we can continue to offer as much opportunity as possible to as many community groups as possible. However, Theatre Orangeville is not in a position to cover the costs of user groups accessing that space. I really, truly wish that we were, but it's not the reality of the world that we live in. So the ask is that council approve covering the $17,300
deficit that the management of the Opera House has incurred over 2023, 2024, and 2025, and that for the 2026 and 2027 years, which are the 2 years remaining in the current Opera House management agreement, that the annual fee be increased to $65,000 from $50,000 to ensure that we can continue to offer the maximum amount of community opportunity without having to cover that deficit ourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Aliff. Was there questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. Very clear. I guess we've been through this many a times with Theatre Orangeville, and I don't mean about money. It's never been about money. It's about what is the theatre and what does the theatre mean to our town, and what would life be without the theatre, and what would it be with it? And I'm firmly in the camp that there is no without it. So let's just solve that right there. But to me, I do like the recommendation. The recommendation doesn't say no, but it does say that we have to go through a process, and that process is happening in October. It's very difficult for us to give money at this time of year. Like, it would be easier if it was a January or February request versus a October request. But I just want to share that in some way, shape, or form, I'm in favor of making sure that we are good partners with the theatre. So in my mind, I just want to bring down the temperature and set everybody at ease with that. But second to that, we have a process that we have to go through, and the debate will ensure, and I'm in favor of the way that this is written, and it says that, essentially we will reconsider and rediscuss during budget. So hopefully that wasn't too much of an answer there, Your Worship, but I just wanted to share my support and how I feel about the process.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Your Worship. And very similar to Deputy Mayor Taylor, firmly support the theatre and what the theatre does for our community. Looking at your report, and again, I'm specifically looking at your report, one of the things that really caught my eye was, in fact, the number of user groups that have increased. But what is your plan from the perspective of not only looking at the existing increase, but attracting others? Do you have a plan or a thought that has come about on how you will attract additional users within the time frame that you have? And I also have a follow-up question as well.
Ms. Aliff?
Go red light. Thank you for the question, Councillor Andrews. We are very actively pursuing additional user groups. The calendar itself is very, very busy. It's a very busy room up there, which is fantastic. Where there is still a lot of opportunity is in between our existing programming. A really great example of that, Orangeville Music Theatre, who typically rents in January and June, has maxed out the capacity of the venue they were going to be using for their late October presentation of Rocky Horror. We were able to move some maintenance days to work with them so that they could use the space and increase their ticket sales capacity. So there's a lot of creative scheduling in being able to accommodate those last-minute production requests. Where there's still lots of opportunity and where we're seeing a lot of success with attracting new user groups is with the non-conventional groups. So wellness clinics, medical clinics, other corporate groups who are holding AGMs or seminars or speaking engagements, those types of meetings and talking heads seems very not appropriate to say, but I can't think of what else to call it. Those can all happen concurrently with Theatre Orangeville programming. So anything that only requires the apron, the front portion of the stage, and we can bring a screen in to be able to provide projection opportunities, a podium, microphones, all of those sorts of things. Those types of events are becoming very popular in the space and more common, and can happen at the same time as our programming. So we're maximizing the use of the space.
I have had the opportunity to attend some of those front of the stage events, and they really have been rewarding, successful. And I see a colleague of mine from staff, the manager of economic development and culture, and an opportunity from a tourism perspective. So the TED Talks, that comes to mind. You have an opportunity for something like that. Just to get into my second question through you, Your Worship, I think what I see here is I'm a numbers guy, and I think I've expressed that in any conversation I've had. I'm trying to still figure out the disconnect on the, the increase, but where there's the deficit, where there has been a loss over the period of time that you're speaking about. Is there a way that you can summarize that very quickly?
Absolutely. I came into my role at the top of the pandemic, 11 days before it, and inherited a set of reporting documents for the Opera House Management Agreement. There was a changeover on the staff end as well, where the lead of economic development had changed over the last few years. We were continuing to use the same reporting documents. The use of the space has evolved, and those reporting documents, when I started doing a review of all of those processes and templates, was inaccurate and no longer capturing the detailed minutia of what the actual hard costs of operating the venue were, much of which have been impacted by inflation. And when I started doing that deep dive, it was very quickly evident that that space is not breaking even. And that's where the deficit of the management services has come.
Madam Clerk, could you turn on Councillor Andrews' mic again for a follow-up? Let's let Councillor Sherwood go, and then I'll come back to you. Oh, no, we got it.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Again, thank you for that explanation. And again, very similar to what Deputy Mayor Taylor had expressed, as we will be going through a budgetary process, I think that that is the prudent way of moving forward with a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Your Worship. My position on this is it is critical that the Opera House run and be available for anybody in the community or even outside. It's very critical. I personally feel that we are getting one heck of a deal with only paying $50,000 for someone to manage that, whether it be Theatre Orangeville or we couldn't even staff it ourselves to have people run, you know, the lighting and the sound and the ushers, et cetera. So I still think we're getting a really, really good bang for our buck because we do need that beautiful facility to be available. So I'm going to definitely be supporting the ask for 2026 and onward. The ask for the to recover, I'm going to just put this out to staff. This is kind of unrelated but related. Theatre Orangeville used to run our tourism office, and I believe we paid around $60,000 for that. And then that money got reallocated in the budget somewhere. So I believe that of the $60,000 that we used to give you for the tourism, I believe that we only allocated $25,000 of that in the budget. And Ms. Savage, maybe you could answer, was the other balance of that money dispersed in other manners, or was it already kind of allocated that the full 60 was going to be going to Theatre Orangeville for that?
Ms. Savage?
Through you, Mayor Post, Councillor Sherwood. Yes, $25,000 was repurposed for visitor promotion, kiosks, things that we were putting throughout the community, and then the remaining funds were returned to the operating account. And I don't know the treasurer's online, but it probably went into tax stabilization reserve.
CAO Smith?
Yeah, I'll just comment. I happen to have the numbers here. Katrina supplied them earlier. It's the remaining $35,000 is built in as a savings in our 2026 budget. Staff are working on the 2026 budget, so it hasn't been moved somewhere else. It's been removed from the budget to try and keep our tax rate down. So I think the recommendation is sound. Push it into the 2026 budget deliberations so council can make the decision with all the other requests that may come in.
So I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity to pay this $17,000 out of that $35,000, or am I trying to spend money that we don't have?
CAO Smith?
You are spending money that you don't have yet because it's baked into the budget, which you're going to consider in December. again, I think the recommendation says, hey, wait till you see the ins and outs and things like that and then consider it. It feels like a reasonable request. There's lots of reasonable requests, and you'll have to decide which ones and what your appetite is for tax increase, because, you know, all of these things will push taxes increase.
Okay, yes, so
Councillor Sherwood?
I can see that we should be basically supporting what the recommendation, and even though my heart wants to give you a whole pot of money, if it would just fall from the sky, we do follow pretty strictly, and Deputy Mayor mentioned it lightly, like to come this time in the year when we're well into our budget and it's already been, you know, accounted for, it's hard to just give out money at this time of year when, you know, it wasn't in the budget. When we think of other people that have come for the same reason. But again, I will be supporting you no matter however we can make it work. And hopefully the recommendation when we do the discussions when the budget, we'll be able to find that pot of money somewhere.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. I actually think your timing couldn't be better because we are only really like 6 weeks away from the budget being tabled. So your timing is perfect because we will be considering this very quickly, even though we're not going to give you money today, unless somebody makes a motion to do so. But I'm not hearing that right now. But I think your timing is really good because staff will take it away. They'll add it to the 2026 budget for consideration, and then council can deliberate it along with everything else that we'll be considering. I think it's pretty clear that you've got 7 strong supporters here. So we all want to see Theatre Orangeville succeed, and we all want to be good partners. Councillor Sherwood is right. We've got a really good thing going, and we're very unique in the sector to be able to say that we've got such a close partnership. So I'm really excited for that partnership to continue successfully, and I look forward to that. With that, if there's no other questions from council, the recommendation is that council receive the Opera House Management Agreement amendment request presented by Sharon Aliff, Executive Director, for information, and that the request to increase the annual Opera House Management Agreement fee from $50,000 to $65,000 for the remaining term of the agreement be referred to the 2026 budget for consideration, and that the request to reimburse Theatre Orangeville for the estimated losses associated with the Opera House Management Agreement from 2023 to 2025 be reviewed by staff and referred to the 2026 budget for consideration. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Sherwood and Councillor McIntosh. Any last questions? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Aliff.
Can I make a general comment?
Sure, please.
Related but somewhat unrelated. This is for council's perspective. Historically, staff have brought things to you during the year for pre-approval. And you approve them in January, February, March, something, and then we come to the end of the year and you're hamstrung when you do budget deliberations because you've already proved many things out of context of what other requests are doing. And we are guilty of bringing those to you to do that. In 2025, internally, we said we're not going to do that. So when you see the budget come in for 2026, currently we've only identified one item that you've pre-approved for $3,000. So it's a good financial strategy to, as much as you can, to delay so you can consider all the requests at one time. And again, you'll see just one request for $3,000. Historically, many years, there'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're already starting having made decisions.
Thank you, CAO. Our next presentation then is from Marianne Love. She's joining us virtually. Ms. Love, I can turn it over to you. This is talking about the council term compensation review.
Internally, we said we're not going to do that. So when you see the budget come in for 2026, currently we've only identified one item that you've pre-approved for $3,000. So it's a good financial strategy to
Okay, Ms. Love, if you're there, we are ready for you.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm here. Can council hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to present the report, the summary report on the study that we've conducted for the 2025 compensation review for elected officials. I believe clerk is going to move through the slides. And through your worship, I'm more than happy to take questions as we work through it, or you could hold those to the end and I'll just follow your lead. So by way of background, the base pay rates for the elected officials have not increased, aside from cost of living or COLA adjustments and a 1/3 tax adjustment since 2010. Compensation for elected officials at the town of Orangeville was last reviewed in 2022, with no adjustments made to base pay aside from COLA. Base pay rates were adjusted to account for the loss of 1/3 tax-free exemption. This was back in 2018. I reviewed municipal comparator information and prepared a base pay market summary using various percentile targets. The 2025 council remuneration study was undertaken to conduct a review of the base pay and also other compensation elements for mayor, deputy mayor, and councillor positions. And this was done using a comparator group that was seen to be generally reflective of the local regional area, having regard to indicators of size and scope of service. And of course, the recommendations in this report are prepared for council's consideration this evening. This slide sets out the current pay practices for the 3 elected official positions. For mayor, the 2025 base pay rate is $59,277 annually, deputy mayor $35,284 annually, and councillor $31,897. We have 7 members of council. In Orangeville, there are no additional per diem payments that have been provided for council committee attendance or special meetings. So in other words, the base pay rates are sort of an all-in payment for various meetings of council, basically council business. Kilometers expense reimbursement is made at current CRA rates, and that's at 72 cents per kilometer for the first 5,000 kilometers. A laptop is provided to the members of council. There is a technology allowance of $180 per month, and this is provided to cover operational expenses. $100 is allocated for home office, $50 for internet, and $30 for cell phone costs. Benefits, apart from life insurance, are provided with full premiums paid by the town. There is no participation in OMERS, nor is there an RSP contribution made. The conference budget is allocated to each member and meal expenses are reimbursed. Base pay is adjusted annually, January 1st of each year, with the same economic adjustment that's provided to non-union employees. And council remuneration is reviewed every 4 years, so once a term of council. By way of executive summary, you can see, and I won't read them out again, but the base pay rates are, you can see at top of screen here, those are the current base pay rates for the 3 positions. The 2025 base pay remuneration for all positions is low to the defined pay market, and the defined pay market has been defined as the 60th percentile target. The 60th percentile is the dollar rate where 60% of the wage rates in the comparator organizations for each position identified are below the amount and 40% are above. So in terms of a rank order, the 60th percentile target rate is a little higher than the 50th percentile or the median of the comparator group. Other elements of remuneration are generally comparable. Pay practice related to benefits and expenses can be defined in a council benefits and expenses policy, and I understand that there would be future work on that policy document. The initial, we started this project with a very large comparator group. So we have an initial comparator group and then a comparator group that we used for, I think, a more focused assessment of the pay market. So the initial comparator group was selected utilizing the comparator group that was used for the 2025 staff compensation study, and a custom survey was prepared. There are 14 comparators initially identified, comprised of counties, single tier and lower tier municipalities. And you can see them here. I won't list them, but you can see the group of 14. Then coming from that, all that data was collected, and it was determined as we were working through it that perhaps a more defined comparator group might better assist us in understanding the competitive pay environment. So that comparator group was refined by removing the counties and selecting comparators from within the group that were more closely reflective of size and scope of Orangeville. So the defined comparator group was narrowed down to consist of the municipalities of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, East Gwillimbury, New Tecumseh, Centre Wellington, Orillia, and King. So you can see that's a subset of the larger group. In terms of market observations, in terms of base pay specifically, Orangeville is relatively placed within the comparator group having regard to size indicators. So taking a look at operating expenditures, population, and size of council. The size of council for the comparators ranges from 7 to 10 members, and 7-member councils within that group are prevalent. So that's the more common number. Base pay compensation for mayor, deputy mayor, and councillor positions was reviewed and compared to the defined pay market using 2025 base pay rates. For 4 comparators, base pay compensates for council meetings, committee meetings, and special meetings of council. 1 comparator reports that additional meeting per diems are paid for special council meetings, and that's $100 per full day of meeting. So the majority use what I would say is sort of an all-in compensation base pay value. 1 comparator also reports that additional meeting per diems are paid for council and board meetings. That's $85 for a full day. In terms of percentile target, it is common practice in the municipal sector for council-based pay compensation to align with the same percentile pay target that's adopted for the management non-union employee group. The compensation philosophy for the management non-union positions in Orangeville establishes job rates at the 60th percentile of the defined pay market. That review was completed in 2024. The base pay rates for mayor, deputy mayor, and councillors are all below that 60th percentile target. There are 3 market matches for deputy mayor. The current base pay rate for deputy mayor today is approximately 10% above the councillor base pay rate. That is I think that practice can be brought forward into this review, and therefore a market revised rate for the deputy mayor can be achieved by adjusting the market rate that's being determined for the councillor by 10%. This is predominantly because we only have 3 market matches for the deputy mayor and it's not determinative. This slide takes us a little deeper into the numbers. So you can see the market summary sets out base pay comparative statistics using 50th, that's the median, 55th and 60th percentile targets. You can see a percentage difference column to the right of each one of those targets. That percentage difference is the value. That percentage difference is shown beside each percentile value is the amount that the current base pay rate for the Orangeville elected official position is below. We would need to adjust by. So for example, I'll just choose councillor. So the current base pay, you can see moving across, the current base pay rate is $31,897. We have 6 matches for councillor. The market median is $36,407. And of course, if we're looking for a little higher target within the group of 6 observations, you can see those dollar values are a little higher. Where you see the pink shade, that's the 60th percentile market value. So the 60th percentile is $43,755. Moving further right, we would need to adjust the current base pay rate by 37% to get to that number. And if you take your eye up in the same column, for the deputy mayor, you can see that there isn't much deviation, but it's a different comparator group. We didn't get 6 matches for deputy mayor. Amongst the 6 organizations, only 3 had deputy mayors. So we took as I said earlier on the previous slide, I took the $43,755 annually, adjusted that by 10%, and you can see the deputy mayor adjusted rate at the bottom of the screen where the cursor is. Moving up to the mayor, you can see with 6 observations, the 60th percentile pay target is $80,154 with a differential of 35.2%. The market comparisons for Orangeville positions based on the 60th percentiles compared to the defined 6 comparators and the initial 14 comparators take us into the space that you see on screen here. The 60th percentile market rate for the mayor is $80,154. Now, amongst the defined comparators, those comparators range from $53,748 to $100,756. That's within the small group. The initial comparator group, which was the larger group of 14, had pay ranges for mayor that range from $53,748 to $155,474. So you can see that the smaller group is more conservative, just by observation on the mayor assessment. Moving down to councillor, you can see that the pay rates for the defined comparators range from $28,773 to $49,318. That's a smaller group. Looking at the initial group that was selected, those pay rates range from $27,213 to $58,916. Again, a tighter range with the smaller group. And of course, with regards to the market rate for deputy, you can see that we only had that. If we're looking at the defined and initial comparators, they range from $37,103 to $52,769. However, in this review, recommending running with a smaller subset. So therefore, we've recommended to continue the practice to adjust the deputy mayor pay rate by 10% on the new market adjusted councillor rate, as was identified on the previous slide. Now, for other elements of remuneration, all of our comparators have reported that benefits or a healthcare spending account are provided to all members of council. So that's prevalent. 3 of the comparators report that members of council participate in the OMERS pension plan. All comparators provide some form of technology, so an iPad or laptop, to all members of council. 5 comparators report they provide a cell phone to all members of council, and 1 comparator provides cell phone to mayor only. 1 comparator reports that they provide a technology allowance to all members. 2 report per diem for conference attendance at $100 and $120 a day for each one of them. 3 comparators reporting that meal expenses are reimbursed. 4 report kilometerage reimbursement. Amongst the kilometerage reimbursement that was reported, 70 cents per kilometer is prevalent. Two of the comparators provide car allowance ranging from $3,000 to $10,500 for mayor and $1,500 for councillor. 5 comparators report the compensation reviews are conducted on a 4-year cycle, and all comparators report that base pay rates are adjusted annually by the same economic adjustment that's provided to management non-union or the union pay rates. And 3 of the comparators, when asked, reported a particular percentile target. And many had said of the 3, they were targeting the 60th percentile. So we're in a defined space there. By way of conclusion, the comparator group is representative based on select criteria. The 60th percentile pay target is reasonable, is a reasonable target based on size, scope, and pay practice of the comparator group, and it aligns with the pay target for the defined employee group. It is prevailing practice, not just amongst our comparators, but across the sector, to align percentile targets for council-based pay to the pay target for the management non-union positions. So commonly we see that in these reviews. The base pay rates for mayor, deputy mayor, and councillor all require an increase to meet that 60th percentile pay target. All other elements of remuneration are generally comparable to the defined comparator group. It is best practice to increase the annual base pay for elected official positions annually by the amount used to adjust the employee salary grid. So we want to continue with that practice. This allows for a year-over-year increase to align with cost of living increase. This has also been supported by the survey results that were produced. It's also best practice to review compensation once during the term of council, often towards the end of term, using a survey of comparator municipalities. In terms of recommendations, it's recommended that council consider implementing the following base pay adjustments effective the commencement of the 2026 term of council. And of course, because these rates have been determined using 2025 market review, we would need to be adjusting these rates and provide an economic adjustment for 2026. So for mayor, $80,154 annually, deputy mayor, $48,131 annually, and councillor, $43,755 annually. It's also recommended that council continue the practice of adjusting base pay for the elected official positions annually by using the percentage economic adjustment provided to the non-union compensation grid. It's also recommended that council continue the practice of reviewing compensation at least once during a term of council in constant consultation with a third-party consultant such as myself or another provider, and using the basis for comparison being comparator municipalities. It's also recommended that staff bring forward a policy to formalize the practices that were reflected upon in this review relating to council benefits and expenses. And I think that Your Worship takes care of the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Love. We do have a couple of questions queued up. We'll start with Councillor McIntosh.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, thank you for the presentation, very informative. I do have a question or a suggestion. I have no issue with council getting this increase, absolutely no issue at all. Having been on council now for 7 years, I know the workload and this is definitely needed. My suggestion, and I don't know if council is interested in this, but instead of like a 37% increase all at once, could we spread it out over the 4 years of council, starting next year? Like maybe 10% next year, 10%, until we get to this rate on the final year of next term's of council. That would be my suggestion. It's not a question or anything, but it just would make it easier and more fiscally responsible, I feel. Thank you.
Ms. Love, do you have any comments about that?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, certainly that can be done. It's really at the wish of council, whether or not it's all effective, at the beginning of term of council or it's phased in. It's a council decision. The rest is math.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, as I had prefaced this earlier in another presentation, I'm a numbers guy. And again, I'm going to be very clear to not only those in the chamber, but those that may be watching. All of us here don't do this for the sake of the dollars. We do it because we commit to our community. The amount that, Councillor McIntosh talked about, the hours we put in, it works out to be less than minimum wage. There are those that have commented on social media who criticized, council for even looking at this. Understand, look at the acumen that we're bringing to the table. For those of us who have been professionals in our various industries, we bring academic backgrounds. I'm not here to defend it, but I'm here to speak on behalf of council if nobody else wants to speak to it. I think that, the point that Councillor McIntosh had spoken about, I'm very much in line with the idea of an incremental increase because, again, what people are looking at outside of this forum is, 37.5% increase. My goodness. Well, the decision that was deferred, eventually is going to end up kicking you, where. And here we are in a situation where if you want quality people that are going to be making decisions on behalf of this municipality, you want to have people that in fact know what they do because they have the experience to make some hard decisions. You also have to compensate them within reason. Ms. Love, you had highlighted in your report, and again, thank you very much for your report because it really did provide a context of the comparators, and I really like the detail that was highlighted. And again, as I've highlighted, I'm a numbers guy, and when you were talking about the percentile, you highlighted examples of municipalities that are even smaller than ours that have full-time members of council. And here we have members of council who are doing this, on a part-time basis. I call it's part-time, but it's a full-time commitment. So having said that, I do like the idea of the incremental increase as a possibility. The one question I do have is on the per diem per meetings. Outside of a couple of different county or, committees that some members of council have, none of us, in fact, get a per diem for the committees that we chair or participate in. Was there a calculation made, or could there be a calculation made on all of the council committees that each one of us have and the number of meetings that we have per month, and how would that actually equate from a financial perspective? I would be intrigued to see that. Now, not putting you on the spot to go through, your calculator and try and figure that out, but that would also be another way to increase the compensation without actually, that magical or number of 37.5%. I respect every single member of our council here and any future member of council that would be coming here in 2026. The bottom line is that we do this because we want to make a difference in our community, but there also comes a point in time where you have to pay for the talent that you have.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. Ms. Love, in the defined comparator group, can you tell me, or do you know how many of them had full-time mayor or part-time mayor out of that comparator group?
Ms. Love?
I don't recall, and I think the clerk might be able to jog my memory. I'm not sure that the data came in on that, full-time or part-time. And I think the council that spoke earlier is, I think, framed it very well. It can be viewed as a part-time position with a full-time commitment. So frankly, whether it's a full-time, whether it's framed by a comparative municipality as a full-time or part-time, it really comes down to that statement. And in some cases, in some larger municipalities where the annual rate is enough so that the individual in that role doesn't have to work another role to provide a reasonable income, I think you can back into that and say, well, that's a full-time rate. But there's really no hours of work requirement for any elected official that I've ever come across in this province. The metric or the measure on, the elected official is engagement with the electorate that they represent and the decision-making they participate in council. So, and then the telltale, of course, is if they, come in and they're fortunate enough to be reelected. But I don't really think compensation is determinative, in my view. And the clerk may be able to correct me or remind me if anybody reported on that issue. I don't recall that they did.
Ms. Martel?
If memory serves me correctly, there was one municipality of the 14 that mentioned that it was a full-time position. Discussions at various clerks' meetings that have been held discussing compensation for council members, because it's a hot topic coming into an election year next year. When I mentioned the question about full-time, there was a number of them that have full-time office space for the mayor, but there's nothing in the municipal act or any other legislation that requires any mayor or elected official to put in full-time hours, regardless if the town or municipality tells them to. So everybody kind of just follows that same parameter that the person entering the role will determine if the compensation is such that can afford them to be able to put in the full-time hours required by the position.
Councillor Sherwood? Yep.
Yes, thank you very much for that clarification. I just didn't see it mentioned, and that's why I just wanted to ask that. And to further just my comment regarding my colleague, Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Andrews, I too would support a phased-in increase if it be the wish of council. I'm done.
Counselor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's interesting that we have to decide this for not necessarily ourselves, but for the next set of council. I find it a little awkward myself. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to run in next year, but, if I plan to, I just find it awkward that, we're sitting here deciding possibly for ourselves. And I'll leave it at that for that topic. Councillor McIntosh took the words out of my mouth. I think a tiered raise would be beneficial. That's just how I was going to look at it as well. I know we've done that for other, for the fire and for police in the past and stuff, and I think that would be beneficial. So, thank you.
Thanks, Counselor Stevens. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Couple of things here. The report as written, thank you again, Ms. Love, for the report, by the way. The report as written, I think, as members of council, it's just best if you approve the report. I don't think that it's worth our while getting in any of this nickel-dime stuff and debating about what the salary should be or shouldn't be. It's a dangerous, slippery slope. We were given a recommendation by somebody who does this all over the province. We should trust that recommendation, and we should just be done with this and not go down a road that is rocky and whatnot. If you want to truly be above and be untowards, which is what I think you're suggesting, Councillor Stevens, then you don't get into the mucky muck of talking about this. There is no win. There's no win whatsoever. It's an incredibly awkward discussion. So my goal here would be just to accept what the consultant says. However, I do want to make one point. I do think, I won't speak for myself, I won't speak for the council level. However, I do think that the mayor's salary is a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. And I'll go back, I did not always see eye to eye with our former mayor, Sandy Brown. However, I did see the time and energy that he put forth into the role, and I respected that. I see the work that the individual who sits to my left puts into this, and it's not about Lisa Post or Sandy Brown or whomever was here before. It's about whomever is going to sit in that chair, and if that's going to be Lisa Post or someone else, so be it. Candidly, it won't be me. I will not be putting my name forth for mayor. So I just want to make that clear so that people don't think I'm trying to advocate for myself. But I would suggest that this role is incredibly intricate. The level of emotional intelligence that is required, the level of an intellect that is required, the ability to read a room, run a meeting, run on your feet while thinking, it's incredible what is required. And again, I've already said we shouldn't open it, but I don't know why we're not looking at the high end and going at 0.6 of the high end, which would be 155 times 0.6, which would be 93. Which is even still, candidly, and I know people think, hey, Taylor, you're an elitist. But I'll tell you, if you're a CIO of a company, which is essentially what this role is, this is a joke of a wage for the amount of responsibility that is thrust on the mayor. So I'll leave it at that. I don't think that we can do anything about it, but I just wanted to sound off. And my recommendation to my fellow councillors would be we just accept this and move on. And that's what I would like to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. CAO Smith?
Was Councillor Prendergast going to speak on? No. Okay. So I don't weigh in on things that often. I think the beginning of what the Deputy Mayor said will echo what I will say. And the second part probably, but that's not what was on my mind. I think that the best decision that you've made was to give this to a consultant who does this professionally, does it all over the province professionally. Staff have worked with her. We've reviewed it. We support her recommendations. I appreciate that it's awkward to speak about pay that you may or may not be receiving, but I think it is responsible to make a decision that supports future councils. And My suggestion is that you don't shy away from what the consultant has recommended. I mean, clearly, council's been underpaid for a long time, and we're perpetuating that by rolling it in, and I can understand why. You're all in it for the right reason, but it means another 4 years of being underpaid. And pay is important. Demonstrating fair pay is important, and we shouldn't shy away from that. Certainly, we could phase it in, but it'll just mean for the next 4 years, members of council around this table, or not you around this table, other ones will be underpaid for 4 years. So we supported the consultant's recommendation because it felt appropriate, and it is appropriate. So I will stop there. Just encourage you to make a good decision, whatever it is.
Thank you, CAO Smith. Was there any other questions or comments from council? I have a comment if not. I agree with what Deputy Mayor and CAO have said. My concern would be, and I understand Councillor McIntosh and team where you guys are coming from, but my concern, and it was said by Ms. Love at the beginning, was council hasn't received an increase since 2010, and it's why we're in the position that we're in now. Had this been reviewed regularly at every term of council and decisions been made at every term of council with a consultant supporting and looking at proper comparators, I don't know that we'd be in the situation that we are right now, because I would also argue that not only previous Mayor Brown, but previous mayor to that as well, Mayor Williams, we're also doing the mayor role, and I'll speak to the mayor role specifically, as a full-time job and not being necessarily compensated appropriately for the amount of work that they were putting in. So my concern with the rolling it out is that it's going to get us further behind, and we're going to hit this again, or the next group of council will hit this again in 4 years when they go to do the review, and if we're still behind. So I think it's prudent for us to catch up, and I know it's awkward. It sounds like a lot. But when we look at the comparators, it makes some sense as to where we are, and I think the recommendations are sound as well. Was there any other comments or thoughts from council? No? The recommendation in the report is that report CPS 2025-80, which is the 2026 to 2030 council compensation, be received, and that council approve the council compensation bylaw calculated at the 60th percentile of the subset of comparator municipalities, and that council direct staff to bring forward a draft council education, training benefits, and expenses policy for consideration at a future meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor? Councillor Prendergast and Deputy Mayor. I see that Councillor McIntosh has a question before we call the vote.
Thank you, Worship. Could I make a friendly amendment that we phase this in over the 4 years and see if that flies? If not, that's fine, but at least we'll try to get it on.
I think that it would be best to start with because we've got a mover and a seconder on the motion on the floor. I'm looking at the clerk for confirmation of what the next step might be.
Yes, I would recommend that a friendly amendment not be applied in this instance because there's already been verbals to state that some are for it and some are against it. So you'd have to move an actual amendment to the main motion. So move a motion to amend the main motion to include that it be phased in over 4 years and see if that passes that way. And if not, then the main motion's back on the floor without the amendment. Or if it does, then we've got a main motion as amended.
Did you want to make that as an amendment? Okay. Is there a seconder to Councillor McIntosh's amendment? I don't see a seconder. Oh, Councillor Sherwood, you'll second it? Yeah. Okay. So we'll call the vote on the amendment first then. All in favor? And all opposed? So Councillor Andrews, Councillor Prendergast, Deputy Mayor, Mayor Post, and Councillor Stevens are opposed. Oh, you were in favor. Okay. So that amendment fails 4-3. Okay, so now we'll move forward with the original motion that's on the floor, and we already have a mover and a seconder. Can I call the vote on that? All in favor? And okay, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you again, Ms. Love, for being here tonight.
My pleasure. I appreciate the time that council's given me to present the report and for the ability to do the work for council. So thank you very much. I hope you folks have a good meeting.
Thank you. Much appreciated. We know a lot of work went into it. So we'll now move into the consent agenda. The following items have been compiled under the consent agenda to facilitate a single vote for council consideration. Council may remove any item from the consent agenda for individual consideration. The recommendation is that the consent agenda items for the current council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes. Was there any items that folks would like to remove? Councillor Prendergast? Apologies. Councillor Andrews first.
No, sorry. Your Worship, 13.1.3, Orangeville long-term borrowing policy, please.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Prendergast.
13.2.1, correspondence from the Township of Amaranth.
Thank you. Was there any other items for members of council? Okay, seeing none. The recommendation is that all consent agenda items for the current council meeting listed under 13.1 staff reports, 13.2 correspondence, and 13.3 committee board minutes be received or approved as presented, with the exception of the items removed for individual consideration, which include 13.1.3, the long-term borrowing, and 13.2.1, the correspondence from the Township of Amaranth. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda? Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Stevens. All in favor? And that is carried. 13.1.3, Councillor Andrews, I will turn it to you. I'll put the recommendation on the floor first, though. The recommendation is that report CPS 2025-76, Orangeville long-term borrowing policy, be received, and that Orangeville long-term borrowing policy be approved as presented in attachment 1 to this report. Can I have a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor, please? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor. Councillor Andrews, I will turn it over to you.
And thank you very much through your worship. And this will be very quick. I first of all want to thank staff for this detailed report. It does provide a very clear perspective financially on our commitments to, of course, a number of projects, but also the debt that is incurred as part of it. This was a question, and again, for full transparency to council, I did reach out to our treasurer and posed a question that was pertaining to a little bit of detail that I thought was missing, but she provided me with some great information. And just for the sake of our community transparency, I'll pose the question here. I said, what is the actual dollar amount annually to service the debt through our own sourced revenue? And I'm wondering if our treasurer may be online just to provide just a high-level response to that.
Yes, she is. Ms. Brown, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Andrews, and through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, our current debt load in the 2025 budget is around 3.7 million. So that's the debt servicing costs associated with all of our debt outstanding. The policy as proposed does provide an upper limit overall of about 12%. And I think in the report, it does mention that we're sitting at around 6%. So if you were to do some very basic math, moving from 6% to 12%, we could increase our debt servicing costs up to about and it rounds to 7.3 million. What I might want to do is take an opportunity to mention that this debt policy is part of our overall long-term integrated financial strategy. We've done a lot of work over the past 12 to 18 months or so, putting together various pieces of, financial policies and procedures to get the town on the right path to long-term financial sustainability. And this debt policy is really a cornerstone to that strategy. So with that, I'm hoping that answers your question, Councillor Andrews. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to forward them now.
Certainly does, Ms. Braun. I was very impressed again with the information that you provided to me. And, I think that when we take a look at any costs to the municipality, again, I think that the point that was very clearly shared was, our own source of revenue, but also our ability to service this debt. And sometimes I think that even our CAO has mentioned this, sometimes there is good debt that you have, and I think even their treasurer has identified this is, again, good debt that we are in fact committing to and something that will benefit our community for the long term. But thank you again, Ms. Braun. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ms. Braun, and thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Ms. Braun. One of the things I I kind of noted here, and I just want clarification from you. Is it the Municipal Act under Section 401 that does not allow us to include development charges? And my second part of that would be if we were able to include development charges, our debt would be much less. No?
Ms.
So,
Braun?
sorry, just a clarification. The Municipal Act, when it defines our annual debt repayment limit, the annual debt repayment limit is actually our debt servicing costs divided by revenue. But the Municipal Act defines revenue as just property taxes, user fees, and user rates. It intentionally excludes development charges. We can issue debt that is funded from development charges, but I think the province even recognizes how volatile development charge revenue can be. And so they exclude that as part of the calculation just to mitigate some revenue risk there.
So our,
Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Braun. Through you, Your Worship. So when you're saying that our debt is currently at, I don't know if it was 6% or 12%. Sorry, I'm trying to read this quickly. 6.
So our overall debt burden, as defined by the province, is about 6%. That excludes any development charge revenue in that calculation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm not seeing any other members of council with, Deputy Mayor?
Just really quickly, I thought the report was great too. I think it was interesting to look at some legacy projects that we had that I saw come to fruition since I've been in town. Not that I was on council. The very fact that we're almost ready to pay off the Alder facility is incredible to me. That was a long journey for sure. But I think like if for people watching or reporting on the event, debt is a good thing, especially in municipal government. It allows you to buy something today at $10 and tomorrow it's worth $30 because of inflation, but it only costs you 50 cents a year to maintain that resource. So it just allows us to do so many things. In my life, debt is at times a dirty word. Like you don't want to owe money if you can. It's painful when you do sometimes. In municipal world, I think it's managed very appropriately. If I could have gone back to 7 years ago, I might have challenged the treasurer and the CAO on that strategy. I actually think it's really sound fiscal policy and really well done, and people should feel very confident about what has been presented here today. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I see no other questions, so all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We will move on to 13.2.1, the Township of Amaranth Resolution. Councillor Prendergast?
Thank you, Mayor Post. I would like to move to support the Township of Amaranth on their resolution regarding the aerial spraying of glyphosate. And I have a motion, or rather a resolution to support. Would anyone, I'm not sure what the phrasing is. I'm so sorry. This is the first time I've done this. So, and the clerk is helping me. Mayor Post, could you assist me?
Yep, absolutely. So we can put that on the table. We do need a seconder if someone would like to support that. Deputy Mayor, was there any other comments that you had on that item, Councillor Prendergast?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the environmental dangers of the aerial spraying of glyphosate. And though we don't have agricultural land here, we would be impacted by that spraying as it impacts biodiversity. It kind of just scorches the earth where it is sprayed to manage invasives, but it also impacts anything that would grow in a forest, any animals, plants, and would have a chain reaction to neighboring ecosystems. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Was there any questions from any members of council? Okay, then I will call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Prendergast. Can I just have you turn off your mic? Perfect, thank you. At this time, we will turn into the notices of motion prior to meeting, and I will turn the floor over to Deputy Mayor Taylor to chair the meeting, because I do have a notice of motion.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Your Worship. So at this time, we will go over a notice of motion, and I will go turn it to you, Mayor Post, to share your notice of motion at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The notice of motion that I brought forward is regarding the speed limits on Highway 10. This was brought forward first from our General Manager of Infrastructure Services, Mr. Koselak, and then it was also supported by our Fire Chief, who did identify that the stretch of Highway 10 that runs through the Orangeville borders, from the bypass just to the border of Mono, where the speed limit does go up to 80. On the other side, on the Mono side, it is a 60. So there is an increase through that part. So it was recommended based on some of the motor vehicle collision history since 2022. I'll read the motion and then I'm happy to take any questions, and I'd love a seconder for the motion. The recommendation is, whereas the town of Orangeville places the highest priority on the safety of residents, visitors, and all road users, and whereas the section of Highway 10 between McCannell Avenue, Dufferin, and Dufferin Road 109 and to north of First Street is a heavily traveled urban corridor with multiple signalized intersections and pedestrian crossings that connect residential, recreational, and commercial amenities on both sides of the highway. And whereas Orangeville Fire has responded to 67 motor vehicle collisions on this stretch of highway since 2022, and it is recognized that this number does not capture all incidents, particularly those involving property damage only. And whereas adjacent sections of Highway 9 and Highway 10 are already posted at a 60 kilometer per hour, aligning with the surrounding urban context, and a consistent application of this speed limit would improve overall safety and traffic flow through Orangeville. Now therefore be it resolved that Orangeville Council formally requests the Ministry of Transportation to review and reduce the posted speed limit along Highway 10 between McCannell and north of First Street to 60 kilometers an hour, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Pragmeet Sarkaria, the Minister of Transportation for Ontario, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, MPP, for their consideration and support. And I would be looking for a seconder, but I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor.
Put me back on. There we go. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Could I have a seconder for that? Councillor McIntosh, you'd like to do that? Any comments or questions at this time? Councillor Andrews.
I need you to turn off your mic for a second.
Okay.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor, to our worship, thank you. Really, truly thank you for bringing forth this motion. For those of us who have traveled, and again, I don't need to spend too much time other than the fact that this is one of the busiest intersections in the province. We have data to confirm that, and I think for those of us who've gone through a variety of presentations to MTO, I just thank you for doing so. I know that I'm hoping the education side to this will help drivers slow down. Unfortunately, it's going to take, some form of police assistance to, force people to do so. But I really appreciate you bringing this forth, and I do support it wholeheartedly.
Madam Clerk, could you give Deputy Mayor? Oh. Can you shut off your cue?
Just as a thought, I know we're all getting used to it, but it's a bit painful here so far. I don't know if there's more improvements that we can make here. Okay, very good, thank you. Any comments or questions from this side? No? Oh, Councillor Pendergrass, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. Thank you, Mayor Prost, for bringing this motion forward. Particularly, I was concerned about Highway 10 at 4th Avenue when you're crossing to access Island Lake. That can be particularly scary. Earlier today, we had a member of the public delegate about bollards being set up. I often think that would be a very appropriate place to have some kind of barrier which protects you from that 80 kilometer an hour, sometimes 120 kilometer an hour traffic when you're standing there with your dog trying to cross the street. So thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Very good. Any other further questions or comments? No? Seeing none, all in favor? That passes unanimously, and I'll pass the meeting back to yourself, Mayor Post.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Was there any notices of motion at today's meeting? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. On October 25th at 7 o'clock in Alder Red, the Sludge program will be doing a presentation.
Are you doing an announcement or a notice of motion?
Oh, sorry, I'm doing announcements.
I'll give you announcements.
Way ahead of you.
I'll give you announcements after. Is there any notices of motion at meeting? No. Okay, so now we're in announcements. Go ahead, Councillor Stevens.
Sorry, I thought you said that. I apologize. Anyway, now that I'm all red, my announcement is on October 25th at 7 o'clock, Alder Red, sorry, maybe Alder Green, Anyway, at the older recreation facility, the sledge program will be doing a presentation for the sledges. Access Orangeville purchased 10 sledges, and I'm hoping that some members of council and I know some members of the Access Orangeville Committee will be out to do a photo presentation. I won't be able to attend, so I'm hoping that 1 or 2 or 6 of you can attend on my behalf. But thank you very much, and sorry I jumped the gun.
That's okay, Councillor Stevens. Thank you so much for that update. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 announcements very quickly. This is the first meeting since, of course, we flipped over into the month of October that we've actually met. So the community probably is aware, but maybe not. We want to congratulate the following artists for the 2025 Orangeville Utility Box installations. We have 3 locations, and again, I see a member of our committee that was part of our adjudication group in our gallery, and again, I want to thank those that were part of it. It was very difficult to select because we have incredible artisans that submitted this year. Of the 3, I'll announce who they are. Christina Perskina, featured artist on Mini Broadway and train tracks on Armstrong, as well as Stuart Gunn, who has Dawn Reflections on Island Lake, also on Armstrong, and another wonderful artisan, Angela Burden, featured Best Friends, that is located at the corner of 3rd and 5th, and coincidentally that happens to have a history of our community's fall fair, the fairgrounds, racetrack, and it is perfectly located where it is. The call for the 2026 will be coming up obviously in 2026, so look for that soon. And last, I want to congratulate Orangeville Curling Club for them receiving a Ontario Trillium Grant Foundation grant, I should say, to the tune of about $68,000. Was on site on this past Friday. I know that President Grant Peters of the Orangeville Curling Club and members of the board were there. It was long overdue to assist with some of the repairs that were necessary, but I congratulate them for the efforts that they put forth in the submission, and it really makes a world of difference at the Curling Club.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, Your Worship. The new playbill season has begun for Theatre Orangeville under our new artistic director, Jennifer Stewart. And the current production we have going from October 9th to October 26th is The Wonder of It All. It's a cute little comedy about a married couple and 25 years of adventure. So I encourage everyone to buy their tickets. And if you are interested in even more theatre, get a subscription.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you. This Saturday is the Sustainable Orangeville and CVC tree planting. That's on October 18th. You can sign up online, pre-register would be very much appreciated. That's at 9:30 a.m. And on Tuesday, October 21st, at the Orangeville Public Library, we're going to be celebrating Public Library Week, and the public is welcome to attend Mill Street between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. There might be cake.
Thank you, Councillor Prendergast. Was there any other items of announcement for members of council? I have a couple. This coming Friday, October 17th in Brampton, the Steelheads are playing and they're having an Orangeville hockey night. So I'll be dropping the puck and they're encouraging all the folks from Orangeville. It is our local OHL team that we can support. So if you're interested, the tickets start at $18 and it is this coming Friday. We also did have one of our local teachers win a Prime Minister's Award just last week. So I want to give a congratulations to Spencer Avenue Elementary School teacher librarian Sandra McLarnon, who was selected with a Prime Minister's Award for teaching excellence. And she is amazing. I've been and visited the makerspace that she takes care of, and she's absolutely incredible. She brings a passion to it, and it's very, very well deserved. And lastly, we do also have a member of Great Gulf here in the audience today. And just last week, we were able to do an official groundbreaking of the development on Hanson, the Hanson Road extension, as Mr. Gristo acknowledged earlier in the meeting. And it's a long overdue project that I know the community is very excited about. And I just wanted to acknowledge that working with Great Gulf has been absolutely fantastic. They've really prioritized the importance of this infrastructure piece. And that was a big moment for council to be able to participate, because we all know how important that piece of infrastructure is to connecting our community. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for celebrating with us. Before we move on, any other announcements? Okay, so we will move into bylaws then. The recommendation is that all of the bylaws for the current council meeting listed under item 17 be read 3 times and finally passed. We have a bylaw to provide for the remuneration of council members, a bylaw to authorize a forgivable loan agreement with 24 Armstrong Inc. in accordance with the Community Improvement Plan, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 22-90 as amended with respect to part of the east half of lots 2 and 3, concessions 3 of Hurontario Street, Town of Orangeville, County of Dufferin. The owner is NG Citrus Limited. A bylaw to repeal the appointment bylaw 2025-43, and a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Orangeville at its regular and closed council meeting held tonight, October 14th. Can I have a mover and a seconder for all of the bylaws listed? Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Andrews, all in favor? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Stevens. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for joining us this evening.